Today's video is sponsored by BetterHelp.com, and I've been with them for a long time. BetterHelp is an online platform where we found that you can effectively communicate with your therapist. Now, you begin by filling out a questionnaire, and then you'll be matched with a therapist within a couple of days. And if that match isn't ideal for you, you can certainly make an adjustment there. Now, you're going to be encouraged to journal, and also they have the availability for group therapy on a wide array of topics, and I really like that. So as the need exists, go ahead and take the necessary steps to get the help that you need. And just know that BetterHelp has a 4.5 rating on Trustpilot, so it indeed is a platform you can trust. There's a link below the video that will take you there. Hi, Team Healthy. Welcome to this episode of our series called Narcissism Is. This is where I'm trying to explain to you some of the off-label or non-textbook aspects of narcissism that will help you find some objectivity as you try to deal with these very difficult individuals in your life. Now, I want to start by giving you a little secret that's not too hard to figure out, and that is narcissists are damaged goods. Now, I say it's a secret because they want to cover that up. They don't want you to know about that. But whenever you see how narcissists respond to you and your differences with this overpowering and condescending harshness, what they're really saying is, I don't know how to live life well. I don't understand the ingredients of goodness and decency. And so what they do is they try to pretend to be like they're this strong man or strong woman, and they will overpower you and they'll push all sorts of difficulties on you, without realizing that real strength comes when you know how to be patient. Real strength is evidenced by being level-headed and maintaining your civility when the other person in front of you is not giving you a good reason to do so. Now, I want you to think, have you ever really wondered why narcissists are so adversarial in the first place? Where does that come from? Now, today we're going to be talking about the topic of pain, the narcissist pain. Basically, whenever they come towards you with seeming bravado and harshness and stubbornness and meanness, if they could be honest, or if they could access what's truly going on inside, which is not going to happen, they would say, I'm in pain right now. I'm in great pain, and as I interact with you, I'm counting on you to do something, anything, whatever I require to make my pain go away. And so the message that they have toward you is multiple. Prop me up. Praise me. Let me be the decision maker here. Emphasize what you think is great about me. Ignore the bad things about me. And basically, they're wanting you to be their supply. They're wanting you to say, here's what you can do to have a good life. But all along the way, they're putting you in charge. They're making you responsible for their internal well-being. And then I want you to think, and what happens when you fail to play the role that they have ascribed toward you? Well, that's when you're going to get all sorts of criticism. They're going to be easily offended. How dare you talk about me in a negative kind of way? They're going to offer you unsolicited advice. In other words, they're going to tell you what you're supposed to think and do so that they can go down along their merry way and be happier now. They're going to ask you loaded questions. What's wrong with you? Or why do you have to do these kind of things? And then when that doesn't get the results they want, then here comes the anger. Now, we tend not to think of anger as being a sign of pain, but it's an enormous sign that says, I'm hurting, I'm struggling right now. When you don't play the role of eliminating their pain, they're going to blame you, and they're going to have harsh put-downs that they offer to you. This means they're going to be mean, they can be belittling, they can shame you, anything that makes them think, well, if I can just make you believe that you're awful, then somehow you're going to transform into someone that's going to cater to me. They don't think things through very well like that. And then they offer broad generalizations too as a means of putting their pain onto you. They'll say something like, well, you think that you want everybody to think that you're the greatest person since sliced bread, but I've got something to say to you, that kind of thing. Or they'll project their internal pain onto you. you're so selfish or you're impossible to please. They see in you what they can't come to terms with inside themselves. And what you're doing, or what's happening when this occurs, is you're watching narcissistic pain in action. They're desperate for your affirmation. They're desperate for you to offer them blind loyalty. You're not allowed to be the next person who's going to reject them. Now, of course, in doing so, they bring ruin to the relationship, and they set up the very scenario or the very dynamic that they say they don't want, and it just creates total confusion. Now, as we look deeper into this pattern that they have, they've got all of this pain, and then they unload it onto you, and they make your life miserable. We're going to realize that these individuals are sitting on a large amount of their own personal disillusionment, going way back into their early years. And then on top of that, we're also going to see that they have close to zero skills in managing their hurt or managing their confusion. And when you look at that, that's a pretty bad combination. Now, narcissists, as we look into their deep past, now they don't want you to see all of this because they don't want to have to come to terms with it, but there are patterns that inevitably most of them grew up with. There are messages that they receive that become part of their adult psyche. For example, some of the messages they received in their earlier years were things like, your flaws mean that you're a bad person. They grew up in a very strong judgmental system, and they realized that people are going to give you a grade, and unless you do everything according to what the grade book says, it's going to be curtains for you. They also grew up with the message that says conformity is a must, and there are certain ways you're supposed to do that. And then on top of that, the lack of conformity, in other words, your individuation, means that you're a troublemaker. And so they had all of this conflict. Well, I want to be me, but I have to conform to you. And then when they received the message that said, well, when you or anybody strays outside the norms, you're going to regret it. And then the authority can say to that individual, well, if I'm angry at you, it's because you're no good. It's your fault. And they've been exposed to a lot of anger growing up. That becomes the psychological tactic that they use whenever there's tension. And they've had models of judgment, etc. And so the narcissist in this kind of atmosphere can walk away thinking, I hate it when people treat me this way. Clearly, I don't meet your standards, and that bothers me greatly. You're trying to make me feel miserable. I wish you would accept me. I wish that you would affirm me. And again, we can go back and say all of that can be summarized, if they could be honest, by the phrase, I'm hurting. Now, I want you to notice, narcissists, any human being, can only give away what they possess on the inside. Now, for example, if you say, well, I'd like to give you $1 million. Well, do you have $1 million? Well, no. Well, then you can't give it away. You can only give away what you have. If I want to give away happiness, that means that I possess happiness. If I want to give away kindness, it means that kindness is natural to the inside of me. Narcissists tend not to do that, except if they're in some sort of a grooming phase with you. Narcissists give you misery because that's what they have to give. Narcissists give you harshness because that's what they're sitting with on the inside. And so it's pure psychological math. And so when you see their anger and their bitterness and their demands and their punishment, their sarcasm, their contempt, their stonewalling, their smear campaign, their insults, all of that is their way of saying, that's what I carry on the inside. That's all I have to offer. Now, as you see narcissism as a failed attempt at their own pain management, and you see that their anger and all of their condescension is merely their pain in disguise, which brings ruin to you, it's going to lead you to the question, well, is there a better way for us to handle this? And the answer is actually yes. And there are certain things that you wish the narcissist could understand. But sure enough, it is possible to respond to pain by setting up safeguards, by establishing boundaries, by developing a strong interior, by developing healthy communication skills, by having empathies. And the more you have empathy toward other individuals, then it allows you to have a much greater grasp on the big picture, where that person is coming from. You know a person's backstory, and all of that can be done. And it can be your way of developing your own pain management. And especially when I say going into your interior, the pain riddled person has been told your worth is no good. Your sense of well-being is only as good as your latest achievement or your latest conformity, and I don't really have a whole lot of regard for you beyond that. The more you are able to go inside and say, well, I need to think this thing through. And that's why you hear me refer to the need for therapy, because it's such a necessary or an essential ingredient to be able to examine yourself in a very clean way. The narcissist will think, if we're going to have to start talking about that inner self and changing your inner way of thinking, you know what that is? They'll say it's bull hockey. They'll call it psychobabble. But their only response is, you know what? I'm hurting right now. Therefore, I'm going to hurt you. That's their psychological math. That's what I have to offer. And it becomes a self-perpetuating pattern, and you're the recipient. Now, if you're the empath, your natural inclination is to say, well, I really want to help. I want to help. I want to please, and I want to be a positive presence. But then when you realize how dangerous it is to take your cues from somebody who refuses to come to terms with themselves, then I'm hoping you can think, unfortunately, the pain inside that narcissism or that narcissist is so deeply rooted that I'm not going to be the one that's going to be able to pull them out of that. Therefore, you can take your pain elsewhere. I am not going to be your solution partner. I can't do it. Now, I'm hoping that as you have an understanding of topics like this, it can give you greater insight into some of the difficult relationships you have. I would encourage you to hit that subscribe button. We're going to keep more videos coming toward you, and stick with this Narcissism Is series, because we're going to have more nuances that we're going to be discussing. And I so appreciate you letting me be on the journey with you. Now, you know that I've been sponsored for years by the people at BetterHelp.com. It's an online therapy resource. As the need is there, please seek out the therapy. I just read a recent article saying that the percentage of people in America receiving therapy is higher now than it was years ago, which means people are open to it and gaining some benefit from it. We have the people at BetterHelp.com. They're a team of licensed professional therapists. There's a link below, and you can go through that, get the help that you would need. It can be so essential. Now, in addition to that, I would invite you to go to my website. It's full of all sorts of resources. And I have my own courses. I've got a deep history of giving presentations and seminars, etc., and the courses reflect that. Each one has at least 25 teaching videos with handouts and guided questions. We have anger games. We have This Is Me, about establishing boundaries, Free to Be, finding yourself despite the controllers. We also have Ready, Set, Connect, about what the healthy connection style looks like. In addition to that, you'll see a webinar tab where it's my PowerPoint presentations on a variety of topics, along with many articles in my book. So take advantage of all that. Narcissists are hurting. They're in deep pain, but they're so afraid to say the words "I hurt" that they just say it morphs into their anger, and then they unload it on you, because that's all they know to do. I'm hoping you can see through that and realize, even if you can't make them change, you can at least take yourself away from the target position, and you can be committed to your own sense of well-being and internal growth. And in doing so, it allows you to be the person of peace they can't join you with. But I'm hoping you're not going to receive their pain. You're going to acknowledge your own well-being, and then move further and further towards that place of steadiness and peace.